Hello everyone, I'm Armine, the host of the New World Compendium podcast, and I play as a tank almost exclusively in every game I play. And obviously I picked up tanking in New World as well, and I'd like to give you some tips, tricks, my build, and the run of Armine Expedition as a tank, so let's get to it. Now let's talk about the key points in the build, the gear, and what we are using as a tank. The first decision is whether if you are going to keep your equipment load at heavy or medium. Now this matters because with medium equipment load, you can dodge a lot better. This becomes important in the final fight of Armine Expedition because the final boss in Armine hits like an absolute truck. Even if you are in full heavy gear, you have fortify and everything. If it gets through your block, you are gonna take a lot of damage, especially when it's enraged. I will get to it later on when I'm explaining the fights. So you might want to have, at least for that specific fight, a way to reduce your equipment load to medium or normal, so you can dodge around a lot. As for weapons, sword and shield, definitely I recommend having it. It will allow you to apply weaken, it will allow you to fortify yourself and your allies, and it has an AoE taunt. Now this is in my opinion, the best AoE taunt in the game, as I will get to it later. Basically your fortify is an 8-meter radius sphere AoE, which will be very helpful for you to gather everything together. And as for the Warhammer is a great crowd control, as well as healing yourself and extra taunt, another AoE taunt with your shockwave. So I do recommend using a Warhammer as well. However, you can also use a Great Axe. I will explain it in a second. Now you want taunt gems on both of your weapons. Whether if you are using a Great Axe, Warhammer, sword, you need at least one taunting gem on these. You can get these gems from trading posts, from people who are selling them. They are going for 50 to 100 gold, at least during the beta. I don't think the price will be expensive after the beta as well. If you're a crafter yourself, you can craft them at the stone cutting table, or you can ask a player to craft them for you. This will allow you to basically hold everything on top of yourself, so your DPS have an easier time burning everything down and not taking damage. As for your stats, go with as much constitution as you can, obviously. But if you are feeling comfortable, if you are feeling like, okay, well, I'm having an easy time surviving, you can start transitioning to strength and dealing a little bit more extra damage alongside your DPS to help burn things faster. But until that point, I would say go with as many constitution as you can. This will depend on your playstyle. Now, how does taunting skills work? When you go into your skills, you will see that some skills are taunt gem compatible. So if you have a Carnelian gem equipped in your sword or other weapons, this skill will taunt all enemies it hits. This is generally your single target hit. Shield bash, it stuns as well, although it doesn't stun the boss creatures. But this will be your main, not main, but like sort of the simple taunt. Now, your main taunt as a tank, at least in my playstyle, is Defiant Stance. This taunts every creature for 6 seconds within 8 meters. So you jump into the middle, you use the skill, it fortifies you, and it taunts everything, allowing everything to come to you, and you can burn them down, or your DPS can burn them down. Now, another skill I really like, this is my defender skill line. Obviously, I haven't maxed it out yet, so I don't have all the skills, but you want as many skills from this skill line as possible. And if you have extra, you can take beneficial skills from Swordmaster as well. Like this would be very beneficial, for example, moving 33% faster while blocking. It really, again, depends on your playstyle if you are more mobile, but you definitely want your shield bash, your shield rush, because this will apply weaken, and that's again helping your DPS. And you want your Defiant Stance for your AoE taunt. This is very nice. I like this. You can get into the middle, hold block down as long as you have stamina, and your DPS can just stand inside AoEs or taking a beating, and they will be able to just focus on DPS, and this will allow your healer to have an easier time too, as long as you can continue blocking. So Sword and Shield, 100% as a tank, I would recommend getting it. Now comes the Warhammer. Now the reason I go with Warhammer is, first of all, an additional AoE taunt. This skill, the Shockwave, is also taunt compatible, and it goes up to a 4-meter range, and it stuns everyone when you actually hit people, and it applies Weaken. So this is a really nice skill. Once you use your Defiant stance and gather everything together on you with your Sword and Shield, you can just Shockwave and apply Weaken to everything and reapply your Taunt and keep everything continuously in the middle for you. This skill line also heals you for 35% of the damage dealt. So every time you hit people with your Path of Destiny, which applies Stagger, if you get this, which is a long range, like it's a good clutch skill to pull things away, pull things at range to you, or just staggering people at range so you can catch up to enemies to taunt them. And at the same time healing you if you have this passive. So I really, really like Crowd Crusher with my Warhammer, and that's basically my build. Now, you can, as I said, also tank with the Great Axe. Reaper, which is your pull skill, it pulls enemies if you get this at 8-meter range, and also heals yourself if you get this as well. And it's Taunt Gem compatible. So you can both pull enemies and taunt them at the same time with Reaper. And then in addition to that, Great Axe allows you to pull enemies with your heavy attacks, with Maelstrom, and with Gravity Well. Great Axe is great for keeping everything neatly packed up together so that your DPS can burn them down all the time as a single unit with AoE attacks, which pretty much everything is in New World. So what you can do with Great Axe is Defiant Stance, pull everything together. If anything goes away from you, use Reaper to pull them in. Use Maelstrom to even pack them further together. And then use Gravity Well to just keep everything in the middle, which also gives your allies Fortify while they are standing in this Gravity Well. So you can combine this with Sword and Shield's block, and your DPS, your squishy friends, will pretty much become undamageable. Well, not really, but they will have up to 50% Fortify while this skill holds. So you can alternate Great Axe with Warhammer, in my opinion. The reason I'm not doing it is because I use Great Axe for PvP, and I don't want to respect my skills back and forth all the time between joining a dungeon and doing some PvP. And that's pretty much about it. That's pretty much my build. Attributes, again, depending on what benefits you get from your gear, you can assign your attributes based on that. If your gear is, if you were unlucky and don't have enough Constitution gear, you can drop points into Constitution. If your gear is heavily Constitution and you are feeling comfortable surviving, you can just drop points in Strength. And that's pretty much your main skills and how you tank. Now let's get into some tips and tricks, some boss fights, some hidden chests, and how to fight the final boss as a tank in Armine Expedition. So after you pass the first Azot Seal gate, there will be enemies on the left, down the stairs. Do fight them and jump down into the waterfall because there's an elite supply chest there. Don't forget to grab this one. There are also some resource nodes as well, a silver vein, some harvesting stuff. If you want, you can grab those as well, but don't forget this one before you move on through the dungeon. So the next thing is, when fighting enemies with this pile of whatever that is next to them, do focus down the pile because it keeps spawning more of these enemies. So if, as the tank, you can gather everything right next to it, so the pile also gets AoE down. If that's not possible, do try to focus it down, so you don't have to keep fighting the respawning enemies all the time. Now, when fighting Foreman Nakashima, which is this purple ghost boss, it's a good idea to just pull him behind the wall on the left side, because he flies around a lot and it makes the job of tanking him and DPSing him very difficult, because he constantly gets out of the AoEs and makes people chase after him. So if you just pull him behind that wall, he gets stuck there. Well, doesn't get stuck, but doesn't fly anywhere. And you can just pile on him and burn him down in a single spot without worrying about him flying around everywhere and getting out of AoEs. So that's what I like to do, just pull him there and handle him there. Now, as for the final fight, you fight Simon Grey, this big stomping boss that deals a lot of damage and keeps summoning ads. And there are some tricks and tips to fighting this guy. Now, first of all, when starting this fight, do not immediately use your skills, because there is a state where he is not attackable, but he's moving around playing his animations. So if you use your skills on him, they will be in cooldown when the fight actually starts. Now, once he becomes actually targetable, you can start hitting him, but do not use your AoE taunt just yet. Wait for him to actually spawn his first set of ads, mobs, whatever you want to call them. Then use your defined stance, gather everything together, and let your DPS start burning him down. Now, as I said, this guy deals a lot of damage. So tanking him while just blocking or standing still can be very rough. So you want to be more mobile in this fight, kite around as much as you can while holding the ads on you. Now the thing is, the ads, if you kill them, he will summon them back. So there's no point on focusing on the ads. Everyone just can constantly focus the boss down. But you gotta keep the ads and the boss taunted so they don't go around chasing your DPS and pulling them away from damaging the boss himself. Another thing is, this guy gets enrage. If he starts glowing red, start kiting him around. He deals a lot of damage. Or if your timing with the dodge is on point, start dodging. But it's a good idea to, especially unless your gear is all up to par, it's a good idea to not face tank him while he's enraged and just dodge around or kite him around while your DPS continues to damage him down. Because if you don't, as you will see, you might die even if you are at a decent level with decent gear. He is an unforgiving boss. So that's pretty much about it. I'm gonna let the boss fight play out in a normal speed now, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this first tanking guide that I made for New World. More of these will obviously come in the future as the game launches. There will, I assume, be some changes, so I will incorporate those changes. And obviously once I get to level 35 and do the future expeditions, I will make guides for them as well. This will basically be a constantly updating series, hopefully. And if you want to learn more about the game, see our discussions, get the news and everything like that, you can check our podcast about New World called the New World Compendium. You can find it on iTunes, Google, Spotify, YouTube, or Twitch. All the information should be down in the description below. Once again, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in Aeternum. Happy tanking.